right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the video on author's choices. This should be your second video in Unit 4. Again, this is author's choices. And to me, this is a pretty important lesson. I don't care if you're a student or you're an adult. This is something that you need to really pay attention to because I don't care if it is a YouTube video, I don't care if it's a Netflix show, it could be the text you're actually reading or a novel, or going all the way to your favorite song. There's an author behind it, and that author is going to make choices in what they include and what they don't include. So as a student reading text and as a consumer of media, we have to be sure to notice these choices. Otherwise, we miss out on what the author is trying to get across to us. So, first things first, let's go ahead and set up our notebook. Go ahead and put you're starting on the left-hand side. Go ahead and put your date, the date that you're starting this video, and put the title, Author's Choices. Again, shouldn't be anything new, but if we're going kind of by our reader's notebook, you need to make sure you are starting on the left-hand side of your notebook. So, what do we mean? Everything has a choice when it comes to an author. They make these choices. Some are whole text-based, some are more at the word level. So if I say text level choices, and we're getting ready to explain that, then I mean the whole thing. And again, this could be a short story, or it could be your favorite YouTube video, or one of your favorite songs. They have to make as a whole a text level choice. Then when you get into it, kind of into the details of things, we look at word level choices. Why did they choose specific words and phrases? And we'll come back to that one in a minute. So when we talk about text level choices, what was the author's purpose? Why did they write it? Okay. How to organize the text. If we're talking about fiction, did they put it in chapters? Did they do each thing by a certain character's point of view? Is it third person omniscient to where we know all the thoughts and feelings of everybody? So how were they organizing this text? We have to ask ourselves what type of text to write, what characters, events, or settings to use. And if you're using something like nonfiction, what pictures, graphics, or other features did they include in this? These are all text level choices. So let's go to our notes. We're going to the left-hand side of your notebook. Ready and go. So, under that title, you put author's choices. Everything in a text, big or small, is a choice that the author has made. Authors make choices, again, at both the text level and the word level. So, here's the beginning of your notes right here. Let's talk about text level choices, okay? So, why did they write it? How did they organize the text? What type of text to write, what characters, events, or settings to use, and what pictures or graphics and other features to include. All of this is your text level choices. So now, in the video, this is the time to pause. Make sure you've written everything down you see on the screen on the left-hand side of your notebook. And I'll give you a minute here, okay? Click unpause when you're ready to move on. All right, so you should have copied all this down in your reader's notebook. Let's go to word level choices, okay? So how did the author describe things? What details did they include? How creative or straightforward was it? And how specific words did they use? So this again comes back to this idea of word level choices. So let's add this to our notes. Again, on the left-hand side, you did level choices. Let's do word level choices. So again, how did the author describe things? What details did they include? Sometimes you're going to have word level choices to where, they may spend a lot of time telling us about a scene, right? They may spend 2-3 paragraphs just describing a setting. Or they may get straight to the point and just be very straightforward and say it was a dark night, right? In the middle of the woods. And that would be it. So these are the details they include. And again, going back to that idea, how creative or straightforward are they being, right? Are they really getting into it using figurative language, really describing things, or are they just kind of being straightforward about it? And then, again, we've talked about this before, like with word choice and stuff, is what specific words did they use? Think for an example. Would they just say something is sad, or would they say it's tragic, right? That's the whole idea of what specific words to use. So, looking at everything, this is all the notes that you're going to see on the left-hand side of your notebook. And all of these should be written down before we continue. So if you haven't got all of this, again, time to pause. Make sure you've written all this down on the left-hand side of your notebook. And we will go into our guided practice in just a second. All right, so we've got word level choices. This is everything that you will have on that side. So what we're going to look at today is a little bit of guided practice on a song from Britney Spears called Kill the Lights. Now, I'm not going to show you this whole entire video, but we're going to watch about a minute or so. And you know how I like to do little throwbacks and try to find creative things. It may not be the most cool thing for you now. I'm not going to put, whatever, DaBaby or something at the moment. But, these things go back to being able to show you things to practice. So, first thing we're going to do is we are going to look at this video from Britney Spears called Kill the Lights. And again, I want you to look at it, think about this as a whole video, as everything within it, how it begins, how it ends, the video itself. I want you to think about all these things. What choices is this author making? Look at the design, the color, the beat. Listen to the lyrics, okay? Another reason I use some of these more poppy songs, so you can hear the lyrics without having to look it up and know different slang and stuff like that. So we're going to watch the video here. And again, I'm not probably going to show the whole thing, but we're going to get in the first minute or so. And I want you to be thinking about the choices that the author or authors are making.
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt our program of dance music to bring you a special bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News. Our very own Pop Princess, now Queen of Pop, has a special announcement she would like to make.
I think I'm ready for my close-up. Yeah. You don't like me, I don't like you, it don't matter. Only difference, you still listen, I don't have to. In one ear and out the other, I don't need you. Your words don't stick, I ain't perfect, but you ain't either. If you're feeling froggy, I ain't even losing sleep. There's more to me than what you see. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry, Mr. Photographer.
All right, so what choices did the author make in this video? Let's first and foremost look at the text level choices. Let's look at it as a whole. All right. The author chose to make the video animated, in other words, a cartoon, right, instead of real people. Now, why would they do that? A lot of times you see videos and it tends to be real people doing not necessarily real things, but tends to be real people. Why did the author choose to do this animated, right? They also made it very futuristic and techy, right? They made it kind of seem like it's somewhere in the future. They made singer Britney Spears, she looked like a superhero, right? And what was cool too is I liked how it started with this kind of spoken introduction, right? You get kind of not just the song, but you're getting this introduction. Why is it there? And then they made the song pretty fast and with a heavy beat, lots of instruments in the background. This is looking at it as a whole, as text level choices. Now, on the word level choice, what did we see? Intercontinental Radio News. That makes it seem kind of futuristic, right? Intercontinental Radio News. Right? Y'all think of like Spotify today or something like that. Think about it futuristically beyond that. She called herself the pop princess, queen of pop. Kind of the grandiose bragging. That's always going to be in the word level. Kind of make themselves feel like they are at the top of their game. And she says things like, ready for my close up, lights, camera, action. These are all kind of famous Hollywood lines, so it gives you kind of an illusion or a throwback to the idea of this is someone that's very famous or very important. Uh, and she keeps comparing herself to some other person. We don't know who that person is, but think about it as someone that maybe they're competing against, or someone that is their antagonist, if you would. And I like how they also use descriptive words like "your words don't stick." That's a very descriptive type of language. And, with the idea of they don't stick, what does that mean? It's the idea of thinking that no matter what you say to them, it doesn't matter to them, and it also doesn't stick to who they are. So when you say the words don't stick, it's not a physical, like someone's throwing words at her and they're sticking to their body. It's the idea of what you're saying doesn't matter, right? These are all these very descriptive words. So that's our first kind of practice here. This is our guided practice of looking at something in kind of that multimedia video format. Now, let's look at something in a book. Okay. Now, so we're going to look at this book. Okay. And the book is called I Had Seen Castles by Cynthia Ryland. Okay. And this is a very good book. I think it's something that it's definitely worth checking out. And you know me, I love to make book recommendations to all you out there. And for a historical fiction piece, I am a big fan of this book for many different reasons. So let's look at the text level choices. All right. Just to give you kind of a little bit of background, this book is kind of set in 1942, beginning of what? World War II. That's right. It takes place mainly in the United States. All right. It follows a guy named John, who's 17 years old, and he's debating whether to sign up to go to war or whether to avoid going to the war. He meets this girl named Jenny, and they begin a relationship. And this beginning is definitely about growing up and a lot of the things that he goes through. And then, of course, spoiler alert, he does end up going off to war, and the book kind of deals with these ideas of being young, being in a war zone, having to deal with everything that happens in the war. All right. So when I look at this book, she makes the book very short. It's less than 100 pages. Again, this is one of the reasons, too, I like to recommend this book for someone first getting into historical fiction, because it's less than 100 pages. I believe it's 94 pages. So we have to look, why did she choose to make this a shorter book when obviously historical fiction, especially, they tend to be a little thicker, a little longer type. She starts the book with a poem. Before you even get into chapter one, she has a poem from another author. You got to think, why do they choose to start this book with a poem? And she sets it in World War II. The book is narrated by John as an old man looking back on his life. Most of the book takes place in America, not Europe, like a lot of other World War II novels. We've studied World War II, so you understand that the war mainly took place in Europe and Asia. So the author made a specific choice to actually have a lot of this book taking place in America. And Jenny and John have very different thoughts about the war, which obviously would cause conflict. And, why do they make this choice? I mean, they could have just said, oh, Jenny and John, they both are super patriotic and just want to join the war effort and everything. But no, I mean, that's what sets up a conflict between these two people that start a relationship together. So let's have a little bit of practice here, okay? I'm going to read to you this excerpt from I Had Seen Castles. Pittsburgh was darkness, the taste of smoke in one's throat and heavy smog and black soot. That was Pittsburgh. I grew up there. It was the only world I knew until I was 18, and I never questioned the filth. Perhaps no one did, believing filth to be the price one paid for the steel and railroads that fed us our meat at dinner. Industry gave the city a shining black Fords and millionaires and lights. The lights burned at high noon as well as midnight. So thick were the black clouds hanging above the town. They were beautiful lights nonetheless. Okay, that's our excerpt. Let's look at this in a word level choice. Why did they choose this specific way to say this? All right. Uh, Word level choices, they use one instead of you, right? So you can put yourself uh, outside of it, almost from the outside looking in. Using that word filth, they could have just said dirty or nasty, but they use that specific word filth, right? Filth. Talked about things like steel and railroads that fed us meat. We know that's not, to be taken literal that the steel and railroads fed them meat, but instead, it is because of these steel. They meant this figuratively. Figuratively. Literal versus figurative, remember, guys? Yeah, so the steel and railroads that feed us meat, in other words, that the work, and even though it's causing this kind of pollution, it's what keeps this town of Pittsburgh going. It's what keeps food on the table. It's what keeps them gainfully employed. They also use things like Fords instead of just cars, so it kind of brings to mind the idea of a specific type of car. He describes how the lights burn all the time, right? And then he uses words sometimes like nonetheless, which can be kind of an unusual word instead of saying instead or something, right? So this is the whole idea of word level choices, okay? So now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to do your independent practice. This is the right-hand side of your notebook, and here we go. What are we going to do? All right. First and foremost, on the right-hand side of your notebook, put author's choices practice. Underneath, it says book title. Please put the book or story title you are currently reading. Don't just put book title, okay? Not just book title. Put something there that is just a stand-in for whatever you will put based on the story or book you are reading, okay? So we're going to make two boxes. The first one is going to say text level choices. All right, these don't have to be perfect boxes. You don't have to break out your ruler and measure them and make sure they are perfect, but we're talking about two boxes that take up the entire page. So you're talking about half of it being text level choices, and you are talking about the other half being word level choices. So in this first box, again, we're going to talk about text level choices as a whole. Again, go back to your notes, look on the left-hand side, and you see what do we mean by text level choices, okay? And don't forget, you need to put my example, as I said about the author, Cynthia Rowlett, makes I Had Seen Castles a very short book. That is a text level choice. So you're going to look through your story, you're going to look through your book, and you're going to look at the big picture on why they made choices that they made, all right? Then we're going to go to our second one, and we're going to look at word level choices, all right? We're going to look specifically at words they used from a specific part of your book, okay? So again, you're writing my example. He uses Fords instead of just cars to be more specific. And you can see beside it on word level choices, I put the page number. So that is something I would probably want you to do is put where in the story you got your information for word level choices. Now, again, this should be about the whole entire page. It should be just two boxes. They don't have to be perfect. If you just want to draw a line and split them in half, that's fine. But again, you make sure you're doing labeling it text level choices and labeling the second one word level choices and writing my example. Okay. So here we go. On your own, ladies and gentlemen, think about the choices your author is making in your book or story. Think about your book as a whole and decide on 5 choices your author has made. How many? 5. Then go to the specific page in your book, either where you currently are or a page you've already read. Find 5 choices your author has made at the word level also. So add all these choices to your chart. If there's a specific page for the choice, include it. Write neatly and do your best work. So we have a total of 10 choices, ladies and gentlemen. 5 for text level and 5 for word level choices. All right? So let's get rambling. Let's get these things done and go.